And away we go. Alright then, let's see what goes on behind the scenes. So, Eric in our group chat has recently sent a Twitter X post, and it's in regards to Discord, the platform where our group chat is on. This is a Twitter X post by disclose.tv at disclosetv. The caption reads, "Just in. Discord to globally require a biometric face scan or ID verification for full access next month to protect, quote-unquote, teen safety, according to The Verge." Eric replied with, "So boys, now what?" And you know what, that's a good question. There is this book I've read. I don't know, for some reason I don't know what the title is. Yet I have listened to that audiobook many times in the past. And the premise of that audiobook I've listened to is that there are two mice, Sniff and Scurry, who knows that not everything is guaranteed forever. They know that not everything is permanent. Things won't last forever, so Sniff and Scurry find strategies to adapt to new changes when those changes come about. Unlike the other two mice, him and Ha, who take things for granted. They look at the pile of cheese, like Sniff and Scurry have witnessed the cheese. Him and Ha just look at the cheese and go, "Yay, cheese, let's enjoy it." And then the moment the cheese supply or the cheese pile disappears and there's no cheese left, him and Ha are just like, "Oh no, the cheese is gone, what shall we do? We're freaking out." Sniff and Scurry knew this was going to happen, and because of that, they expand to new territories and other strategies to ensure that whatever rewards they do get, they continue. They just go at it in a different way. And this is the context that's very similar in regards to this Twitter X post about Discord introducing face scans, ID verification, in the name of safety for children. Yeah, we need to be on our feet, lads and gals. Things aren't guaranteed. They won't last forever, no matter how hard you try to enjoy the moment, and no matter how hard you try to find other avenues for success and achievement. You'll never know what's going to happen. You always got to prepare yourself for the worst. And if we don't speak out about these issues now, at some point, it will already be too late. And there's nothing you can do. There's no going back whatsoever. So, tough biscuits, one of my high school teachers once said. They mainly said tough, but I also added on saying tough biscuit because, well, I don't know why it was funny at the time when I said it. So that's the story that no one asked for. All right, next, I've sent a screenshot of a Instagram post, and the Instagram post is a screenshot of a Twitter X post by SP at SS Panzer UKK. The caption reads, "An Englishman has coached a Super Bowl win but for a Premier League title?" In a new paragraph. And from the pictures I'm looking at, on the left is supposedly one of the coaches of the Seattle Seahawks, the NFL team that won this year's Super Bowl 60. And on the right is another picture showing all of the Premier League managers, their nationalities, and how many times they've won the Premier League. And anyone that doesn't know what the Premier League is, I'm specifically talking about the English Premier League, the top flight English soccer football division. So anyway, I'm gonna just read the managers out, the nationalities, and how many times they won it. So firstly, an 8-way tie, fifth position, an 8-way tie, shockingly, on a slot, nationality, the Netherlands, Claudio Ranieri, nationality, Italy, Manuel Pellegrini, nationality, Chile, Roberto Mancini, nationality Italy, Jurgen Klopp, nationality German, Kenny Dalglish, nationality Scottish, Antonio Conte, nationality Italy, and Carlo Ancelotti, nationality Italy. All of those managers for an English Premier League club have won the Premier League once. Next in third position, a two-way tie between Arsene Wenger, nationality France, and Jose Mourinho, nationality Portugal. Those two managers have won the Premier League thrice, 3 times. Second position, Pep Guardiola, nationality Spain. He won the Premier League 6 times. And finally, number 1, top position, Sir Alex Ferguson, nationality Scotland. He's won the English Premier League with Manchester United 13 times. Wow. And during the existence of the English Premier League, the top flight soccer football league in England, since its formation in 1992, not one manager whose nationality is English or is of English nationality or from England had ever won the Premier League. And the post, that screenshot that I just shared onto the group chat, shows a lad, presumably British, has coached a NFL team to win the Super Bowl before any manager in England won the Premier League. And specifically they said Englishman. A lot of soccer football fans would say, oh, but Alex Ferguson is from here, he's from the United Kingdom. And that is true. But the discussion here is English managers winning the Premier League. Sir Alex Ferguson is Scottish, like Kenny Dalglish. Dalglish is Scottish. Not one English manager has won the English Premier League. And yet an Englishman going to coach another team in a completely different sport, in a completely different country, but most importantly, a completely different sport that isn't well known in a country where he's originally from, helped a team in that sport to win a very important title, respective of that sport. So, yeah, most people don't know what's going on, people don't give a damn, it's not a big deal. It does say a lot about what goes on in England if people from England are going on to achieve great things somewhere else. They're not achieving great things in their own country, they're going to other countries to do very well. So what does that tell you about England? Or other countries for that matter? How is it that people from England are going on to do great things in other countries, yet when they do it in England, nah. It's a tight squeeze. It's a madness. It baffles a lot of people. Alright, next, another Twitter X post shared by Eric from the account Sarah Malkangi at Malkangi Sarah. I'm not sure I've said that surname right. The caption of that Twitter X post reads, "Cue the entrance of the one world religion. The Catholic Church has signed agreements with top Muslim imams, stating they are brothers of the same faith." I'll allow you to make of that information however you like. The caption alone is open to many, many interpretations. So looking at that Twitter X post and looking at the comments, yeah, it's heated. It's very, very heated. Another Twitter X user responded saying, "Well, officially, they always have been same religion but different flavors." Sarah responded to that tweet saying, "No, they never have." Now this tweet has opened my eyes a bit. I've heard so much about an author named Yuval Noah Harari. Anyway, I'll read that tweet in response to Sarah's quote retweet on that Twitter X post that Eric Taylor shared in the group chat by Ham Extra Bacon saying, yeah, and I believe Yuval Noah Harari is the false prophet. I'm sure I'm wrong, but I might not be. He's perfect. He's already creating an AI Bible that leaves out Jesus. God is probably non-existent, or some gay trans tree or something like it. Sarah responded saying, Harari is a great candidate. He's one of the most evil men on the planet. Their words, not mine. And whilst people have strong opinions against people's life choices and what people decide to do in their lives, I will say this. Whatever people decide to do in their life, let them. Let them find out for themselves. Let them experience the choices that they make. And if at any point these people who made these choices decide to change something else, like, I don't want to do this thing anymore, I want to turn my life to Christ, then again, I say let them make that decision on their own. We shouldn't be forcing people to make decisions because it fits with our narratives or because it is something that is good to us. As hard of a topic, as hard of a take this is, everyone is entitled to their opinions. Whatever choices people make, allow them to experience these choices for themselves. If they change their minds, again, let them. And especially if those choices leads to something very significant in their lives, and then those people who change their minds about something then respond saying, you know what, I feel a lot better by doing this instead of that thing. I'm gonna stick. I want to do this choice from now on and live my life throughout with it. Then again, whatever people choose and decide to do, they will experience that. And whatever they experience, it will be very noticeable to those people. And if, if those experiences gives them a perspective of the world, about the world, and within the world, and they decide to do something else, then I think at that point, whilst allow them to make the choices they want to make, given their experience, it is important to ask ourselves, why now are they deciding to make that decision? And I'm not saying turn to Christ, changing minds about what they think of the patriarchy or what they believe on the rise of capitalism. It doesn't matter what the topic or subject is. If someone decides to make a change in their lives, given their new perspective on particular subjects, whilst allow them to make the choices and allow them to change their perspectives and minds about on those subjects, those people are capable of making those decisions for themselves. It is now down to asking the question, why now? Why are those people changing their minds about subject A, topic B, or a third thing? And what is it about that subject or topic that has either drawn people in or turned people away from said subject, topic, faith, people groups, whatever concept exists in our world? That is very important to note. And in regards to the one world religion, I will say this. No, I'm not going to argue with what people's faiths are, or if people decide to choose this faith or that faith and stick by it for most of their lives. I would rather have people stick to choosing one option of multiple faiths that exist in the world rather than a global unified religion or faith. There is history behind those faiths. There's a reason those faiths exist. In my opinion, having a unified world religion is not a good idea. I believe it takes away individuality and independent thinking. And I know people that don't believe in any faith will argue that sticking to a faith does not mean people are intelligent or have any sort of capacity of thinking. There should be options for any subject, any topic, allow people to choose out of between one or two or more of multiple options that exist. There shouldn't be a one unified option. What if at one point people don't want to stick to that option anymore? They then go on to create an alternative option to the main one that has been around for many people's lives. I'm just thinking out loud. One world religion is not a good idea, in my opinion. Anyone that says, oh, let's have a one world religion, I want to hear those people out. I will allow them to have their say on why they want a one world religion. I'm just going to say, why? Why should we have a one world religion? What is wrong with faith A, faith B, or faith C? And even if there is a unified religion or faith, to what extent the existing history of existing faiths will be intact when it comes to forming this unified world religion? That's another thing. To unify multiple things into one is essentially a possibility for portions of our history to be forgotten, not erased, forgotten by most people. And I don't want to see parts of history in our lives to be forgotten. That's what I'm thinking. And again, not just history of the faiths around the world. I'm talking history regards to the formations of countries that exist, the history of world leaders, the history of military generals, famous, well-known figures in history, the history of inventions or concepts that exist in our world that we're using right now. Who's not to say there are people that are trying to take chunks of text out to the point where people aren't going to recollect on such information because someone took that out a while ago and no one's thought about putting that information back. Or there are people that take chunks of text of any history of anything out so that when people recall on the history of whatever again, people won't know about what's been taken out, which could have been very important to note as the core reason for why key events in our world happen to begin with. That is all I'll have to say. If Eric was on here, he'll likely say the same thing. If not, he'll say, yeah, I agree with you, Johnny. So, yeah. Alright, now, regarding the Epstein files, yeah, I'm sick and tired of hearing about this. So, a couple episodes ago, Eric shared a Twitter X post saying that this bearded, grey-haired man seen walking that seems to be somewhere in Israel, maybe nearby Tel Aviv, turns out to be Jeffrey Epstein. I've looked at the comments on that Twitter X post that Eric shared, and looked at the comments that asked for Grok, saying, is this true? Is this photo real? And the response by Grok said, yes, this response is certainly real, but that's not what I did. Instead, I looked at a response by another Twitter X user whose caption reads, I was willing to call bullshit on that until I checked one of the pictures using AI detection websites. This is just fucking horrifying. And then there are four photos showing the same photo of what seems to be Jeffrey Epstein, but it's just different layouts from the same website. One one screenshot shows the results of the supposed photo of Jeffrey Epstein, showing the ratings in percentage of how AI generated or deepfaked that picture is. The first screenshot shows 1%, and other options of diffusion includes other, DAL-E, Firefly, Flux, GPT, Ideogram, Imagen, Midjourney, Hewen, Recraft, Revi, Stable Diffusion, WAN, and Z image. Those are the quote-unquote diffusion or AI image detection software. Only the other groups of diffusion software said that the score for a supposed photo of Jeffrey Epstein is rated at 1%, likely to be AI generated or deep faked. And if anyone wants to check that out themselves, they can do. But I'm not going to argue with this. If people want to find out for themselves, they can. And just like this user, Machine Gun Mac, at gun_Mac on Twitter X, I would say the same thing as he had. I was going to say, I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure if that really is Jeffrey Epstein. But given that, putting that photo through AI image detection websites, yeah, how can I argue that? How can I argue to people that that is not Jeffrey Epstein? I want to hear from people that would try to convince me or tell me otherwise that this person is not Jeffrey Epstein. It's just a guy that kind of coincidentally looks like him. It could be his somewhat identical doppelganger. Again, that could be a very good case. If someone had put in the effort to use AI detection website and then the results come back saying, no, this is 100% or 99% real. This is not AI generated and certainly not deepfaked. That's it. It's over. There is no arguing with that. I'm willing to give both sides a chance to have their say. At this rate, it's hard to convince me that that's not Jeffrey Epstein. That is life. Whilst there are some people saying, "Oh no, oh my gosh, Jeffrey Epstein is still alive," even with so much dedication to find the evidence and so much effort to prove to people Jeffrey Epstein is still alive, there's going to be people that will say, no, Jeffrey Epstein's not alive. He unalived himself in 2019 in his prison cell. From my experience, I'm not going to argue with people on anything. I'm going to be honest with myself and say, well, this is what I've seen, what I've heard from people, even with the most concrete, ironclad evidence. Out of the people who are in denial are still in denial despite the concrete, ironclad evidence. Who is anyone to believe that you could change people's minds or convince them about what goes on in our world? I'm just saying. Just leave it at that. And that is all the stuff that has been sent quite recently before this recording. So with that being said, let's get right into the news. Let's see what news is floating about in this day and age. Ontario's Inspector General of Policing confirms province-wide inspections to police commissioner into police corruption. This past week, the Toronto Police Service suspended 2 more of its members, a spokesperson said, without sharing whether the suspensions are with or without pay. Project Self investigators allege a range of violent and corruption-related offences, with York Regional Police announcing charges on February 5th against 27 people, including 7 Toronto police officers and 1 retired officer. The fallout has grown. The tally of suspended members now totals 10, including Constable John Madeley Jr. and his retired Toronto constable father, while the service seeks to suspend 4 of the 7 charged officers without pay. Ontario's Inspector General announced a province-wide review, with Ryan Teschner saying, although this issue originated with the Toronto Police Service, we have since learned that other organizations may be impacted. While Shelley Carroll and Demqui Dem, dem, oh, how do I say it? Demq requested an external investigation last week. Clayton Campbell, president of the Toronto Police Association (TPA), said the TPA is aware of the two suspended members and represents over 8,700 members. Peel Police has suspended 3 officers with no charges filed. Wow. It's gonna happen. Not saying it happens everywhere. If there are officers who have been involved in some kind of corruption scandal or operation of corruption, and a third thing related to corruption, then yeah, you're gonna be caught out at some point. Not instantly, but also not too far into the future. There will come a point you will have your comeuppance if you're found guilty of these acts. And this is what I just read with Ontario. The thing is, even if there is a lot of information coming out about police officers in Ontario being found guilty of signs or acts of corruption. Whoever's currently in the police force in Ontario, they will say, "We are aware of these issues. We'll do the best we can to ensure problems like this don't arise again." Only to fast forward a couple more years, and then a similar case like this has happened again. Now, if this was a completely board of staff members, if a majority of staff members for the new inquiry into this corruption case is completely different to the previous inquiry or charge of corruption in the police force, then apply with what's going on in Ontario right now. The only difference is there's different people knowing different stuff and have different knowledge of different information. If the group of staff members or police officers within the force is mostly, if not completely identical for the future corruption charge as it has been with the previous or current corruption charge or investigation, then you gotta question. You really gotta ask. You need to really press hard on those people. You said you were going to do something about the last corruption inspection. How come you made the same mistake again all those years later? Events like that are very unlikely, but the chances of it happening are never zero. Still, surely, when there's a scandal, signs of corruption, or there had been problems in any organization, it is expected for someone to do something to tackle the problem at hand to ensure it does not happen again. It may not be perfect. It is better to have done something than to do nothing at all. So sad. Very unfortunate. And whoever's guilty within this corruption operation, in my opinion, kick them off the force. Never allow them to work in any law enforcement capacity ever again. That's what I would do in my opinion. Kick them off the force, don't let them work in any law enforcement organization or any capacity of law enforcement ever again. In my opinion, it just makes sense. If people can't be trusted to follow the laws that's been set out for the people, which also applies to the law enforcers themselves, who is anyone to believe that they should be trusted with enforcing the laws which residents and citizens is required for them to follow? Or at least they should follow to the best of their ability. It's double standards, man. Ridiculous double standards. The Dalai Lama's office confirmed he has never met or interacted with Jeffrey Epstein, stating, "We can unequivocally confirm that His Holiness has never met Jeffrey Epstein." Newly declassified U.S. court records contained references to Epstein's name, but many were generic mentions rather than evidence of contact. Experts caution that mentions in the files do not imply wrongdoing or confirm meetings with Epstein. noting no evidence of a personal relationship exists. And yet, there are people that will say, oh, this person was being mentioned in the files, so they done something wrong. They must be punished. There's people in this world that still believe that because this person was mentioned in the Epstein files, mentioned by Epstein himself, automatically means this person is in the wrong. Automatically. No matter how good of a person this person is, or people, you were mentioned by Epstein, you were mentioned in the Epstein files, you are guilty of being mentioned by Epstein himself, or people affiliated with the predator. You shall be sentenced to 10 years in jail. If that actually happened, I want to cancel my subscription to live on this planet. If there is one, if there is, I would immediately cancel it if what I just said a few moments ago was actually real, which is not, thankfully. Thank goodness that did not happen. And just like what the summary of the story implies, just because someone was mentioned in the files does not mean they've done anything wrong or even have met with Epstein, does not mean you should go defend those groups of people that even had brief moments of even being in the same room as Epstein. Whilst people know now that people aren't automatically in the wrong for being mentioned in the Epstein files, does not mean you should go defend these people for any other wrongdoing that is completely unrelated to Epstein in any capacity. That is just as bad as saying, oh, this person is mentioned in the Epstein files, they're in the wrong automatically. They should be punished no matter what. I feel like moments like that have happened before with literally anyone, and then anyone working in law enforcement or the judiciary system in any country around the world. You can't just accuse someone of doing something that you don't like. If it breaks a law, then that's worth going to court for. But don't think you'll win that. There will be other arguments to say, I may have broken the law, I did it in good faith. I'm not defending people who do that. There will be people who are defendants in such court cases that will say, the reason I've broken this law is because there are groups of children that could have lost a life if I didn't intervene sooner. Not like that it has happened. There will be people who are accused of anything that will say that whilst I might have stepped out of line with local or national laws, what I'd done that day was to someone's benefit. There are people like that that will make that case in any court case. So back to the story about the Dalai Lama meeting with Jeffrey Epstein. This could be a satirical sketch. Like, anyone could be accused of anything, especially meeting with Jeffrey Epstein, because someone's been mentioned in the files. You're in the wrong. You should be locked up. That is not like that is never going to happen, unless in the case of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, Lord Peter Mandelson, Bill Gates, the Clintons, etc., who have not just close ties to Epstein, but they were actively involved with what Epstein was doing during his time, doing whatever he was doing. If there aren't any other people like those people, there is nothing that anyone else could do to say that this person is in the wrong because of connections with Epstein. Most people don't even know what Epstein was doing. They were just on his island for activities that had nothing to do with the operation that Epstein was operating. Again, I'm not defending people going to that island. There are people that just went to the island for other reasons that had nothing to do with what Epstein was doing, which has led Jeffrey Epstein to being locked up. And even if any of the Dalai Lamas have ever existed during Jeffrey Epstein's time as a free man, I don't think any of the supposed future Dalai Lamas would ever become Dalai Lamas to begin with. Just in the case with the current Dalai Lama as of this recording, the current Dalai Lama will not be the current Dalai Lama if they had ever had any connections with Jeffrey Epstein in any capacity. Those are my thoughts. And I don't know much about what the Dalai Lama is and what the Dalai Lama does or do. I know one thing is for sure, the Dalai Lama never gets themselves involved with anything outside of anything spiritual or be one with nature. That's at least my understanding. If there's nothing spiritual or nothing involving nature, the Dalai Lama, both current and past, will never get involved in anything like that. I don't know what else to say or what to argue about or rant. That's as much I can say on that matter. Scottish Labour leader Anas Sarwar calls for Keir Starmer to quit as Prime Minister. On Monday, Scottish Labour Sarwar urged Prime Minister Keir Starmer to resign during a Glasgow press conference citing too many mistakes. Newly released Epstein files and related documents have deepened scrutiny of Mandelson's ties to Epstein, fueling the crisis surrounding Starmer's 2024 appointment of Mandelson despite knowing of his connections. A recent opinion poll of 2,053 adults between February 4th and February 6th found 55% want Starmer to resign, while Kalshi showed a 23% chance before March 1st, and Star Sports offered 1/4 odds on his replacement this year. Facing MPs behind closed doors Monday, Starmer met support from cabinet ministers, while senior aides, including Morgan McSweeney, resigned on Sunday. Looking toward May, the unfolding police probe and release of Epstein files may influence Labour's election chances, as documents could take weeks to publish. Before starting this recording, I've heard that two Labour cabinet ministers had resigned on the same day. So, no, this is not to say Starmer is going to be out before May. It does show that chances of Starmer being Prime Minister until the end of the year is becoming slimmer and slimmer by the week, and in the coming months as well. So, if Keir Starmer wasn't already in hot water, he certainly is now, and even more so as his current premiership continues to progress into something. And I've also heard that former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner, supposedly and allegedly, a leadership bid to become the next Labour leader. I do have a feeling that Rayner does have a chance to be the next Labour leader. I'm not going to rule out, but there's a lot of people saying Wes Streeting could be the next leader of Labour. There are two other people, whilst not as likely, I'm not ruling them out. They could be dark horses to be the next Labour leader. And those people are Rachel Reeves and Shabana Mahmood. For some reason, I suspect Shabana Mahmood could be the next Labour leader. And as things stand now for UK government, Labour, it's so bad right now. Even discussing replacing Starmer as Labour leader, the timing is terrible. Say, I don't know what else to say on this. Someone is going to call. Someone's going to say something. Not just anything. There could be more information about the Epstein files. Someone could say that maybe someone could reveal something about Starmer's past life. Something he did absolutely terrible. And people go on rampage mode saying, "What are you? How could you done this all those years ago?" I'm not saying something like that has come out now. There could be someone that might likely reveal something of Keir Starmer's past life. that could possibly be one of the final nails on Starmer's coffin for as Labour leader. That was my opinion. May not come to fruition yet, or ever be true at all. In this day and age, given the mistakes, the problems that's going on in the UK, anything is possible. Anything is possible. Who knows? Who bleeding knows? Hong Kong's Jimmy Lai gets 20 years in prison for national security crimes. On Monday, February 9th, 2026, Jimmy Lai was sentenced to 20 years in prison at West Kowloon Law Courts, with 18 years to be served consecutively with a separate case. In December, judges found Jimmy Lai guilty of conspiring to collude with foreign forces and publish seditious material, determining he aimed to destabilize the Chinese Communist Party, prosecutors said. After a 156-day trial, Lai spent 52 days giving evidence facing judges handpicked to preside over national security cases, and was denied his first choice of lawyer, according to his legal team, and lawyer Robert Pang. The sentence could heighten diplomatic tensions, as the Committee to Protect Journalists condemned the verdict, and Keir Starmer, British Prime Minister, urged Lai's release, while press freedom NGOs and Western states criticised it. The closure of Apple Daily followed police raids and an asset freeze, forcing its June 2021 shutdown, while Reporters Without Borders linked a 68-piece press freedom drop to this case. One thing I will say, if the first choice of lawyer you want to represent you in court was denied, this is my opinion. I don't know much about the judicial or law systems in other countries. If you're being rejected your first choice of lawyer, it's either there's issues with the first choice lawyer, or there is another candidate for lawyers on the defendant's side that the law team or whoever's working the judicial system in question, or where the court is presiding in, believes would make a good case for the defendants. That's not to say that, oh, this lawyer will be a great candidate to make the defendant look guilty and give the suitable punishment. No. This is the judicial system's suspicions and opinions that they believe would make a good case for the defendant, not someone that will do the defendant dirty to give and to hand the defendant or the accused many multi-year long sentence. Again, that's just my opinion. I can't say I know much about law or judiciary systems. Now, there could be people that argue, oh, if this person was rejected the first choice of their lawyer, then there's some kind of corruption. Not saying it's true that there will be people who say something like that, and I'm not going to argue with it. That could be the case. If not, I would say the reason why the first or second choice lawyer for the accused was denied is because those lawyers aren't that in the eyes of a nation or territory's judicial system, they don't believe those first or second choice lawyers would serve justice to the accused / defendants. And in regards to being sentenced to prison for national security crimes, I am not going to defend antagonizing a country. I'm not going to say that I am certainly not going to say it's okay. It is not to use sensitive information from another country, give it to the opposing side, so the opposing side could use that to their advantage to take down the country which you stole information from. I'm not going to defend that. Even if that is the case I'm making, that is not to say that people should be defending the country whose information has been taken, or in this case, mainland China. One thing I will say What is it about the information that Jimmy Lai has possession of or know about that the mainland Chinese government are so worried about such information being made public or being taken into the hands of the Chinese government's opposition, whether it be countries that heavily despise mainland China or other intelligence officers that would use the information from China to their own advantage to take down the current Chinese Communist Party and other affiliate members. And what else? There are people that will take down the Chinese Communist Party and take down the current government of mainland China, which isn't all that different. It's the same thing, in my opinion, and to most people as well. What information that Jimmy Lai has possession of is so scary in the eyes of the Chinese government that they want Jimmy Lai to be sentenced for 20 years in prison for national security crimes. What information does Jimmy Lai have that will put the Chinese government at such a disadvantage? Is it even incriminating to? Would this information be incriminating to China? Who knows? If that is the case, then I think a lot of people would say we want to know what the information is. Until we know what this information is and whatever happens next with Jimmy Lai, even though he's been given 2 decades in prison, anything can change. Maybe a few years down the line, we'll look back on the case and realize, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't have locked Jimmy up after all. He can go free. That could happen. It's not guaranteed, but we just have to wait in the next few years what information comes out regarding to this story about Jimmy Lai being locked up 20 years in prison for national security crimes against the mainland Chinese government. And that is it for the episode.